Hey there. Welcome to the Pelvis Project podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Roxy. We're two pelvic health experts brought together by passion for our careers, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and the desire for intentional relationships.
Join us in our mission to spread pelvic floor awareness and start conversations surrounding the truth behind genuine health, imperfect wellness, and joyfully navigating life. We are so glad you are here with us.
Let's start the conversation.
Hey, Roxy.
Hello.
We are excited to be back. I'm excited to be back on this next episode because I was missing the last one.
I missed you. It was a very, very lonely feeling. No, it was okay. But it was very weird. It was weird.
I very much appreciate you taking the reins while I was with my sweet dad, who was in the hospital. So that leads us to tell us something good, and I will go with he's not in the hospital anymore, and
Yay.
He is home and recovering. So that is my something good.
My something good is that the sun is shining and it's warming up and the snow is melting. And I love, snow's great, but not for this long. And the cold is fine, okay, for a little bit, but not forever. And so just the fresh air and sunshine is a literal breath of fresh air for me and my family and my soul. And
yes, truly, truly. Well, okay, I'm going to introduce our guest today that we have on the podcast. This is going to be, goodness, if you've going to listen to any episode, this is probably the one that we would suggest that you listen to. So we have on the show today, Taylor Rains. Taylor is she is just such a bright light. She is the founder and CEO of The Social Collective. It's a digital marketing agency. She has her master's in organizational leadership. She is passionate about empowering others, a dedicated advocate for survivors of abuse and sex trafficking. She balances her career with family life, being married to her husband, Austin, and a proud mama to Lincoln. Currently, she is competing for the title of Miss Kansas USA. We are honored to have her on the podcast today, and we know that everybody is going to get so much from this episode.
Yeah, you're in for a treat with listening to this interview. I hope everyone can glean something from it. But what we're really excited about too is from the perspective that Megan and I function from, where we are working in the physical pelvic health space. And we work with individuals who do have past traumas. And even though people come into our office for the physical benefit of that, there are so many connections that I just don't think are well known or well understood, or there's just benefits that come when we work on one area of our life, and then that overflows and affects healing in another area of our life. So in the pelvic health world, we are working on the physical body, but we also are addressing the nervous system, and we're addressing the mindset, and we're addressing the ability for our brain to connect with parts of our physical body rather than avoid or shut them out, or desensitize that area and just pretend like things haven't happened. And so she's going to speak for herself, and it's just a rich interview. But just as we really think about that, I think from a pelvic floor therapy, I guess recommendation is just we would say don't underestimate the power of physical healing on healing mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and vice versa. And so that's what we're really excited to hear, how that's happened in her life too, and bring more education and awareness to just the huge overlaps that happen as we're healing, no matter what the story is of the people that we're working with, or if that's you, if you're in a journey of healing, just appreciating the power of all the different parts healing together as one body. Yeah.
All right. Yep. We hope you enjoy it. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We are so happy to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to just kind of chat through the story and what's coming up. And just want to honor y'all too for having me. We've grown such a good friendship, and I just love what you're doing. I think it's so special.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, we did we kind of did a little introduction, but we also like to provide space for you to share also a little bit about yourself. So you are here in Wichita, Kansas,
Yes.
and tell us about your life here.
Yeah. So Austin and I moved here. We had met in college in Texas. He's a Kansas boy. I'm a Texas girl. And we came back here, getting used to the cold. I think I'm still in denial. But,
Yeah.
we both got our master's degrees in organizational business together, organizational leadership, came here and we were in ministry for the longest. And after having Lincoln, we both kind of pivoted. We're still doing ministry in our daily lives, but full time. Austin's a Textron. I have a digital marketing agency called The Social Collective. So just lots of like social media and creativity, and it's the best. That's how we met, you and me,
Yes,
Megan.
yes. Yes, if anybody needs any assistance, we will give her information.
Right? Subtle plug. Thanks.
Yes.
But yeah, really from there have just made amazing connections and have had time to just branch out and think like, hey, what can I do that is so much fun and also makes maximum impact? And so that's just kind of the way I like to do life, like open-handed and like, what's the next thing? Here we go.
Yes. So one of the reasons why we're having you on today is for you to be able to share a little bit about you competing in the Miss Kansas USA pageant that is coming up
Yes.
just next month, which is
Yes.
super exciting. And tell us a little bit about, I know you shared your story with me as to why you decided to step into this, because obviously this is your first pageant, right?
Yes.
You've not done this before.
I
This
have
is new and
not.
exciting.
It
And
is.
it's a lot
Mhm.
to undertake. And I know that you have a very good reason why you decided to participate. And that's what just made me super excited to be able to have this conversation and the hopes that you spread your story and your hope
Yeah.
to women in our community. So tell us a little bit about
Oh,
that.
wow. You just set me up so well. I hope I live up to everything you just said. Yeah, no, you're totally right. I've been really passionate the last few years about just helping women have like hope-filled, joy-filled, dream-filled lives. I think it's really important as a mom. So I'm a mom. I'm 31. I'm married. I am a business owner. I'm now competing in a pageant. I think that there's a lot of stigma around like once you hit 30, congratulations, your life is over. And it's like, why? Like, why is that? Like, why? Like, why should we stop having fun? Why should we stop wearing pink? Why should we whatever? But I like to challenge that because I'm a person that I love fun. I love trying things. I love all of those things. That's just who I am to my core. But I felt for a while that I had kind of lost that in me because of those things like becoming a mom and being 31 and whatever, but also had walked through a really traumatic experience. And so the long and short of it is years back, I had been assaulted and drugged by someone that I knew. And I didn't really remember all of it, which is common for someone who's been drugged. I remembered pieces, but not quite enough to realize how devastating it actually was for me. And so really for years, I was having all of these weird, what is now CPTSD episodes, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was having those for years without the diagnosis and without also remembering my whole story. And so about 3-ish years ago, I was officially diagnosed with CPTSD due to that instance. And right before that, like, I was like, man, what is wrong with me? I was having heart issues. I was having to go through like weeks of testing, and you put these stickers on you and come
Mhm.
home and monitor your heart. And every time it hurts, you push a button and they're like, Taylor, you obviously have something going on with your heart, but we don't know what it is because it's not your heart. It's affecting your heart. And then I was getting these like softball sized bruises on my legs for like, they would just appear. And I was getting tested for leukemia. And it was really serious. I was having PTSD episodes, and I was also just having traumatic responses to not being
Mhm.
able to process what happened to me. And
Wow.
so I'm really, really grateful to be able to share my experience, not as a shock value of like, this is what happened to me. I hope you share this. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah, yeah.
at all. It's really icky, actually. What I would like to do with my story is share with people, hey, here's what I did and what I wish I had done. Here's resources, which is why I love what y'all are doing at your space. And just really be able to encourage people as a living testimony of, hi, I went through maybe what you went through or something similar to what you went through. And maybe we had the same feeling because I mean, for a while there, I was not okay, like at all.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much debilitated for like a span of 6 months. I just couldn't really function. With PTSD, you're kind of just reliving what happened to you over and over and over. And it was happening to me multiple times a day for months. And
Wow.
so, man,
Yeah.
I was exhausted and I was
Yeah.
a mom. I just had Lincoln. So I'm like, what,
Yeah.
postpartum, all the things. And so with all of that, it's important to me to be able to spread the awareness and the hope for people that have been survivors and also their spouses and their friends and their family to say like, hey, here's how you can help somebody. And here's
Yeah.
what they might need right now. So yeah, I just want to be here to show people like, yeah, do a pageant. Why
Yeah.
not?
Do
Why
it.
not do a pageant?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I have, gosh, so many questions with that. Some things that stuck out to me was you asking yourself, like, gosh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah,
Because I think that that is so incredibly common. Roxy and I hear that all the time with women coming into our space. And it might be trauma related, it might not be trauma related, but regardless, it's that common thread question of, you know, maybe not necessarily we know something's wrong, but we've been gaslit or we override our system or we're just like, what is wrong with me? Like, God, just get over it, you know? And I think that when you said that, I'm like, oh, I think that that is very powerful to, you know, be able to know that if that is somebody listening, that hopefully listening to this, they can be led to some resources and try to maybe step into a space of some more structured help. Wow, gosh, also to this, I kind of got teary because you're like, I'm a new mom and all these things. And I'm like, wow, what an amazing thing that it's almost, although it was hard, your body knew that you needed to be strong for your baby and your
yeah,
son. And even though it got brought up and got brought out, had it not, like you would have continued. So I just love
absolutely.
that that's kind of the timing of it. But tell us a little bit about when you finally were like, okay, like, was there a provider? Was there a person like, what finally got you to the point where you got in front of the right person and they were like, this is PTSD? And the difference like with the like or maybe share a little bit of what the episodes were like because I'm sure somebody's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I think this is me.
Yes,
If you're okay with
absolutely.
sharing.
Of course I am. Yeah. So I guess I could share first, like an episode for me would look like we were in some spaces with work where we were under some unhealthy leadership. And this was like years and years ago. But there was just a lot of gaslighting and manipulation. And I've found that in abusive relationships I've been in, there were two that were just like really awful. And so, like, in those spaces, when I start to feel like manipulated and controlled and gaslit, my body would start to kind of shut down. It was just basically what it was doing to me was reliving through my body being drugged. And so I would start to lose feeling in my legs. My heart would race. My brain would just shut down. And you basically lose the ability to reason. You are just in survival mode. Because for me, like, it was very much survival. With that, you kind of can tell that you're in or you're about to be in a different space when you start to lose the ability to kind of regulate yourself.
Mhm.
And obviously, through years of therapy, like that's really not an issue for me anymore. So thank
Yeah.
God, thank
Yeah.
amazing like
Yeah.
providers. But for me in the beginning, before I knew, like years ago, I would just lose the ability to think and I couldn't see clearly. It was like everything in me was shutting down
Mhm.
to the point where I would be like literally on the ground. And my husband would have to come find me and pick me up and take me home. And it was really intense. And so my body was just reliving what it remembered because it was thinking, oh, that happened. Is
Yes.
that what's happening right now? And it
Right.
was not. It was not. I was not about to die, but
Sure.
my body was saying, you're gonna, this is about
Yeah.
to happen. And it's like, no, dude, my boss is just weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this, it doesn't need to be that serious. But
Yeah.
it's actually the word of it is it's called going global. And so when you have CPTSD, it's called flipping the lid. And basically
Okay.
your brain, it's like you've got, your reasoning and your ability to think and process and whatever. When you're in a CPTSD state, basically all of that turns off and all that you have left is your survival
Yeah.
mechanism. I think it's the amygdala, right?
Yeah.
And so that's called flipping the lid. So you can kind of tell like, oh shoot, like I am not here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you kind of like those were some episodes that you noticed, and then it wasn't until were you having physical symptoms then, like heart and stuff, and didn't put two and two together, or did that happen after you had Lincoln that you
So
started?
that was before I had Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this had, I mean, when I say years, like really from the time that Austin and I got married on, like one of my first episodes was like right when we had gotten married. And so it was like, man, being in a pressure cooker of like, my
Yeah.
body was like, what is going on in this world?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. So
Yeah.
there was just a lot to unpack. But the things that were really helpful for me were like, I had a long time therapist that loves the Lord, knows me to my core, is very honest with me. Like she and I, actually the boss that I was just talking about,
Yeah.
like I would go in and I would pray for him and I would
Yeah.
work through where can I own these moments. And really what I needed to do was quit and leave.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
really all of us did. It was just not a great
Yeah.
situation, but she was very challenging in ownership specifically. For years, she was the one that I would just go to and be like, can you help me? And she really
Mhm.
helped me to get that diagnosis. And
Good.
she was not quick to do that. It took us a long time because
Yeah.
it's not something, I think it's really easy for people to like put labels like, oh, somebody's a narcissist or you're this or you're that.
Yes. Yes.
I do not want to be that.
Right.
And I don't think that it's fair or right to just say, labels like that. Like, I want to actually have a diagnosis. And that was actually it brought me a lot of closure and
Mhm.
clarity because I'm like, back to your point, what's wrong with me? Like, nothing's wrong with me. I
Mm-mm.
survived
Mm-mm.
something traumatic.
Yes.
My body's trying to function through and just keep me alive because that's what it's supposed to do.
Right.
And so, yeah, like there wasn't anything wrong with me besides I needed someone to help me put a name to what was going on, teach me what was happening, and then give me the skills because at that point, like what happened to me is not my responsibility. My responsibility is what happens next. And
Yes.
I am a very much like, you are not going to hold me back. Like, that's not going to hold me
Hmm.
back. And I really hope that people who have been survivors, I don't even want to call them victims. Like,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
hard for me to even say that word. But we are survivors. And to be a survivor, like, that takes some guts. Like, you
Yes.
got past the hardest part of your life. Now you can get to the part of your life where you can love your life
Mhm.
and you are working towards something that you're really proud of. So that's something that
Absolutely.
I really want people to know is like, man, you can do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And finding joy on the other side of it
Yeah.
and being able to, just what you just said, like you can get through this
Mhm.
and being able to find resources and people around you is so important. So you had this amazing therapist that you'd
Mhm.
worked with for years. So probably still the same therapist. I'm
Oh,
just
absolutely.
like they know the story, stick
Yep.
with them. And so you started, working through all of this and as you did the physical symptoms that you experienced, slowly start to improve?
Yeah, so I would say talk therapy was really helpful just to understand. And then I started seeing a somatic therapist. So
Mhm.
the most recent church that I worked at was really incredible. And they were like, hey, we want to support you with your diagnosis. They're really big on mental health. And so I found a woman who is incredible. Her name is Viana Mora and she does somatic therapy. So that is where you are retraining your nervous system on how to work properly. So really like trauma in a nutshell is anything that dysregulates your nervous system so much that it like messes it up. And so like that is trauma. And
Mhm.
what she does is just teaches your body, hey, like here is how to work. Here is how to feel. And I think that has been the most life changing and also, I hate to say the fastest because it's such a process, but
Sure.
it is, I would say, the most almost immediate like benefit that I have seen because she literally was teaching me like my body had shut off and I
Mhm.
didn't know that. But I was like, I remember Lincoln, he would have a fever and Austin would be like, hey, can you check if Lincoln has a fever. And I'd go to put my hand on his head and I'm like, no, he feels fine. Like, I don't know. And Austin touches him and he's like, Taylor, he's burning up. What do you mean? And I'm like, what is wrong with me? My body
Yeah.
shut off. And so I
Yeah.
now have feeling. I can feel temperatures. It's amazing. It's very exciting.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
I think it just brings up such a fascinating connection between like you went through a physical trauma, but then you were living with the mental and the emotional, but then it also turned back into physical. And I think that's fascinating, where I think sometimes we discredit then what those physical consequences maybe are down the long road or in the long term. And so I love that you're talking about this, because I think there's this lie that it's like, oh, it's in my head. I need to figure this out. I need to like like you talked about closure. I need to close this. But even just the physical body working through that and finding that health or that wellness piece from that. I love that you're you're bringing that out, because I just don't think that that's a widely accepted or understood piece when we are working with or just discussing trauma after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like we talked on a previous episode about this like imperfect wellness, and kind of understanding too that the closure piece of it kind of can look different, because it's part of you. It's not you don't have to be perfect in it. It's not gone. It's something that you're working on all the time. It's just like you just said, you retrain your nervous system and your body how to respond in a safer way or manner, if you will. But I think just how you mentioned like what trauma even is. And we see obviously with a lot of women coming in, they may not even really notice some certain symptoms could be maybe some sort of trauma. And I know, Roxy, you might notice this as well, where sometimes there's things that I see where I'm like, I want, like there's probably something there. And it can be as simple as, maybe it's painful sex for their first time trying, and it was pain. And so then now we've laid down this pain pattern, and then there's shame. And then it does become like a trauma. It's just so relevant for what we see also, and what we love to be able to support women through that. Obviously, we have our area of our expertise, but we're always, talking about the mental health layer and getting women to the right providers, men and women, because we see both. But to know, I mean, I still think even though we're talking more and more about this, there is that lonely feeling, and I think we all experience that from time to time. But I think that this is so powerful. And wow, there's so many things you said that I was like, yes, preach.
Preach. Well, Roxy, like one of the things that you said that really made me think is, and I mean, you too, Megan, just about that shame factor. As an achiever, I was really frustrated because my body was not catching up as fast as I needed to. In my brain, I'm like, you are holding me back. Like you're on my nerves. I'm trying to have fun and enjoy my life, and you're just not getting it together. And every time I'd have an episode, it felt like the most massive failure. And I was just like, man, why does this keep happening? This is so annoying. But what I started to realize for anyone that is like me and has a hard time with like just giving yourself grace, whether you call it that or not, that's what it is ultimately. Is like you have to give yourself space to process what happened and how you can move forward to have that life that you really love and are passionate about again. Just to find yourself, And so I finally came to terms when I realized it was like, okay, I'm giving my brain the space to heal and process, but I'm not giving my body the space to heal and process. And this happened to my body and it affected my mind. But like, why am I not giving myself the grace to, give space for both? Because my body needed to heal just like my mind, just like my nervous system. And so I think when I kind of started to see myself as like a whole unit again, instead of like, okay, I'm a brain in this body that is no longer my property. Like that's one of the things that went through my mind after us all was like, I was a thing. So it's not mine anymore. And that is such a lie. It's such a tactic of like the enemy, but also something that women, I feel like, carry, because when you've experienced that type of a violation, you really start to feel like not only have I lost myself, but I will never get myself back again. And that for me is the lie that I believed for a really long time, but it's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Well, I think just as you described it too, the brain and the body, like finally when you allowed yourself compassion for both. And I think, I myself went through a season of just some heavy anxiety. And I was so hard on myself every time it would come back up again. And it was actually finally when my son had started into play therapy that all of a sudden it clicked that I was like, wow, I'm so incredibly compassionate towards him when
Yeah.
he's going through something, but I am not that way to myself. And
Yeah.
that was wild. I was like, well, I figured that one out
Yeah.
on my own.
I should do a podcast.
I was like, man, I just need to show myself some compassion. And then it
Yeah.
takes the pressure off
It
of
does.
trying to be perfect and not allow it to happen again. And so then if it does show up again, you meet it with compassion and love. And that's a totally different response than that your body's going to give than if you're like, nope, 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 this isn't going to happen again. This isn't going to happen again. So,
Yeah.
the brain and the body, so, so amazing. But now this is over a span of how many years that?
Yeah. So I got my official diagnosis about 3 years ago, a
Okay.
little over,
Okay.
just over 3 years ago.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of years. Got your diagnosis 3 years ago,
Yeah.
have been working through this, kind of like really seeing now, like I'm feeling healed
Yeah.
and taking on the stage now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so tell us about like what I know you shared with me that you really felt like this was a good platform to be able to share on, a national stage, kind of, surviving and the hope on the other side of it. So tell us a little bit about what the preparation is going to be going in here to Miss Kansas USA.
Oh my gosh, y'all, it's been so much fun. It's also been a lot of work. So this being my first pageant, I'm not new to modeling. I'm not new to public speaking. I'm not new to advocacy. I'm not new to any of that, but I am new to pageant. And so I was kind of shell shocked in the best way by one, it's so fun and sparkly, which we all know, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. And so the first thing was my coaches are amazing. I have been really intentional with them about what is the best nutrition that I can have. And so my meals have been really great. I've really been feeding my body to be able to do these grueling 5-day workouts. Like it's insane. I'm in the gym 5 days a week. Who am I? Like if I hit someone, it might hurt them now. Like I almost have a bicep. The best part, Austin was like, y'all, I'm not kidding. I was like, hey, feel my muscle. And he was like, okay, flex it. And I was like, I am. I am flexing. Shut up. So, yeah, just lots of preparation, lots of interview work, really learning how to just like share my story in a way that is easily receptive. Like, obviously, we're going more into depth because that's what this is about.
Yeah.
But for the pageant space, it's more just like, hey, here's this little piece of what happened to me and what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
And, just really shining light on what could be for people. And I'm really excited about that. Like, I really do feel like this is a God moment in my life where it's like full ownership of my life and my story and the ability to do something so much bigger than me. Because more than the desire to have a crown, I desire to just have a platform to really make the most concerted effort to say, hi, you can do this.
Yeah.
And I believe in living out loud. So what better way than to just do it,
Absolutely. That full ownership thing of what you just mentioned with that, it allows so much room for confidence and growth to
Totally.
happen when you just, until you've done it and have experienced, it's like, it provides so much drive after.
Yeah.
It feels so scary, but the amount of drive you have after just being like, this is all me and authentically
Totally.
putting it out there.
And stepping outside the comfort zone. I think that's what even I'm hearing of like, there's parts of it would have been easy for you to go into some of these things that you knew and you feel, I know what to do here. I know how to do this, but like to take on something that's really new. And even like you said earlier, like I'm, why not 30 or past 30 and why not do it? Right. But it's like taking outside that comfort zone. And I just think, man, anytime I've been uncomfortable is where I grow, and I think we can look into other people's lives and see the same thing of when we go into something that's like uncharted territories, that's where the growth happens. And that's where just really cool things happen. And so I think
Yeah.
that's exciting about your story is you could have stayed safe and you could have stayed really comfortable with your skill set and your story, but you're taking it to a place that just is a little bit odd for not odd in a bad way, but
It's
just like
different.
it's a different muscle
Mhm.
memory than
It
what
is.
than what you're used to.
Totally. And honestly, like, I love that you said that because I feel like I resonate with everything you just said. And honestly, in the USA space, they only recently changed the age limit and also that you can be married. So this is kind of a new thing. And I am so excited because I made my announcement Friday.
I
Which,
know. I'm so excited.
no,
Your
I pushed
pictures,
post.
everything looks so good.
I was so spray tan. But like, man, I was so excited because it almost felt like I pushed post and I texted my coaches and I was like, guys, why am I shaking? I'm so excited.
Oh,
It just feels like there's so much good to be done in this space. And one thing that I would say I underestimated about the pageant space, because I've always really had an admiration and a respect for it. I did not realize like the amount of emphasis there is on platform. And that really is the reason that I'm doing this. Like
Mhm.
these girls are brilliant. They're
Yeah.
gorgeous. They work hard. Like they have something to say. And I'm just really excited that I could even be just up there. Like these women are incredible. It's really awesome. I'm really excited. And my dresses, oh my God, I wish I could show you. They're so beautiful.
And I think, I mean, to your point too, like, why not? Like, I feel everything just seems so heavy,
Yeah.
especially here recently. And, to just kind of be like, we've got one life to live and why not? And have fun. And I think, I mean, I'm reading that Mel Robbins book, Let Them,
Let
so it's
them
kind of like,
theory.
it's
Yeah.
just like, let that, like, like, let's just do this and
Yeah.
whatever. And I will say, like, when you were like, hey, I want to talk to you about something, I would not in a million years have thought you were going to tell me I'm going to do a pageant.
Join
So
the club. I was like, I feel so insane.
I was like, good. I was just sitting there thinking like, this is amazing. Like it's so brave. Like, I feel like it's just
Thanks.
so awesome to step into. So, but you had mentioned that they just recently changed the age and that you're allowed to be married. And I have been
Yeah.
dying to ask you this question because yes,
Okay.
I mean, we laughed right before this because I almost called it teen because of the
Right.
miss on it. So I was wondering that because it's Miss Kansas USA. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't realize like you could be married to do this. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's really exciting because as when I was growing up watching pageants, that is one thing I will say is the education level and the brilliantness of the women that are competing. And I think that sometimes there's this stigma around,
Yeah.
it's like you have to like have the perfect body and all this. But I really do feel like it's changed. And I think that, man, everybody very brilliant and the platform to be able to speak into. So we are excited
Oh,
to
thanks.
see you there.
Yeah.
Tell us when is it, all the things so that we can
Oh, yeah,
know.
for sure. So the pageant is March 22nd and 23rd. You can
Okay.
buy tickets, but I know the week of is really, really difficult. So it's probably best to get them sooner than later. They're having it in Overland Park. And you can also watch it for free on YouTube if you just want
Okay.
to be, comfy at your house. Do that too.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So what you're doing is really cool. This is really amazing and fun and kind of wild for the mom who's overwhelmed and struggling with maybe some of the same feelings or the same experiences or similar thoughts that isn't going into this big public showing type of a platform. What would you say to her? What's like hope that you can push into her life to still do something with, like after the fact, like you said?
Oh, totally. Well, I think the most life-giving thing we can do is, I mean, I'm a Christian, and so for me, when I was in the trenches of momdom, I was really just like,
Momdom.
just getting connected with the Lord and people that really inspire me. And even if that's like inspiring you to just be present, and like find joy in the little things. I feel like that's kind of what I have done in my life is just tried to make every day feel fun. And there were a lot of days that were really not fun, but just trying to take the days and then those days that are just hard and everything sucks and you're like, okay, nothing's fun. And today was not fun and I didn't like it and I'm glad it's over. Those are days where you can say, okay, is my baby fed?
Yeah.
Does my baby know that they are loved? Is my brain still in my head? Amazing. I did everything I needed to do. Like that was advice that I heard that really carried me, especially in the beginning stages of all of this with trauma and everything. And Lincoln being a newborn, I was like, listen, Lincoln knows that I love him. Lincoln is safe. Lincoln is fed. Lincoln has everything that he could possibly need. And maybe I didn't have the best day, but tomorrow we're going to play blocks and whatever. Like sometimes mom life just looks like showing up and being grateful. Sometimes it looks like showing up and your day sucks and you're like, you know what, but I did it and that's okay. But I don't think it needs to look like a pageant. And that's really, I love that you asked that question because it's not the point of why I'm doing this. It's more like, hey, what is it that drives you? Is it painting? Is it baking? Is it talking to your friends? Is it going for a run? Like, what is it that you just really like? And why did you stop doing it? Because we can make time for things that we enjoy. And having a community really gives you the space for that. So I would say just be intentional with your people and be intentional with yourself. Like grace for yourself and also fun for yourself. Like, why the heck not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Why did I stop that? I think that's so
stop having
powerful.
fun.
Yeah.
I know. It's funny, the word fun has come up so much in this episode today because it was just random the other day. I looked at something quickly and it was something about having fun. It stuck with me because I was like, I feel like I've been very much in a space of not having a lot of fun recently. And then something actually at church this morning, the word fun came up again. And then now it's coming up again. I'm like, all right, Lord, I hear you. It's time to have some fun.
Okay, I have to tell you this. Oh, did I just cut you off?
Oh, no, you didn't at all.
Okay, good. I was like, am I the rudest person in the world? I'm so sorry. I heard a story that changed me and I posted about it the other day, but it really fits here. And I think it could really inspire some, like whether it's moms or teens or like anyone, or like a billion-year-old. Like I love this story. It makes me want to get a tattoo. Okay. So this little old lady was like in the very last days of her life and she had a caregiver and she would come in and do all the things and whatever. And there was one day that she was laying in bed. And this was truly in her very last days. And her caregiver was walking in and heard her laughing. And so obviously she's like, what is she? She's eavesdropping. And this little old lady was laughing to herself. And she was like, I just had so much fun. And she was just like reminiscing on her life in her last days. And I'm like, I'm going to get a tiny little micro balloon tattoo. That's it. And if I hate it one day, I'll just get it blasted off with one little shock. Okay. But like, I really want a teensy little balloon so that I can remind myself, why am I not having fun right now? And what can I do to change that? Because like we were made to enjoy life and have fun. And I mean, the joy of the Lord is our strength, right? And that there is power in joy. There's also perspective in joy. And so I want not to just be flippant and casual and like, I'm going to do what I want. It's more like, how can I enjoy the things that I need to be doing right now? Because it's all just perspective. Like, you can do, I always heard growing up, you can get happy in the same pants you got mad in.
Oh, that is a good one.
It's just a very Texas thing. But it's kind of true. That. It's like, just pull yourself up and deal with it.
Yes, that's so good. I feel like you just dropped so many like truth bombs.
I know. I'm like, I got my second sermon in for the day. Man,
I
two for one here on this Sunday.
And after this, we'll all go get tattoos.
I know. It's so true. Well, and also too, I would just ask, okay, so we're talking about like what advice would you give, to the mom, but what also would you say to the person if maybe they're mom, maybe they're not, but somebody who is finding themselves like, yes, this is me and I went through something very terrible and I've been trying to deal with this on my own or kind of tiptoeing into it or afraid to speak up. What kind of advice do you have for that individual?
Well, the first thing is I believe you and you're not alone. Like that for sure. I think that's the most important thing. And then also like a blanket apology for the people who don't believe you or underestimate you.
Mhm.
I would love to just give that. Sorry.
It's okay. Oh, goodness. Yes.
Because,
Yeah.
man, sorry.
That's
I think
okay.
those are the things that a lot of us don't get. But man, also, I believe in you and you're not alone. And there really are so many people who want to help and who can help.
Yeah.
And just being able to say it out loud to yourself and then realize that, hey, this is where I'm at right now, but there's another side of this. And it looks like healing and it looks like being whole. And maybe it doesn't look like being who you used to be, but it
Mhm.
looks like being stronger and more informed and ready to help other people and more wise. Because ultimately, when things happen, good or bad, we learn and we grow, or we get stuck. And it's really easy to get stuck. And so I would just say, like, get up and wash your face, get up and go outside, get up and make a healthy meal, call
Mhm.
your friend. Like, you don't need to do this by yourself. And
Mhm.
I think to me, the most important thing, like, I'd read Girl Wash Your Face. And for some reason, that book, like, kind of shifted my brain. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just like floating through life now. And
Mhm.
like, that's not who
Mhm.
I am.
Yeah.
So just getting to the core of who am I, like, what
Mhm.
is my identity? And as a Christian,
Mhm.
um, I mean, I know who God is. I know why I
Yeah.
worship him and I know who he says that I am. And
Mhm.
that's what kept me grounded through this whole process, because there's a lot of lies that we believe about ourselves, especially after being hurt. And
Yep.
I know this is a long-winded answer, but there's
No, so good.
so much to say and so much that needs to be heard. And so really at the end of the day, it's, what is your anchor?
Yeah.
And who's your community? And
Yeah.
like, you got to look up. You got to look up and you got to keep going. And man, sometimes it looks like therapy, sometimes it looks like just getting with God, sometimes it looks like telling your spouse or telling your
Yeah.
friend or telling your mom. You just got to do what you need to do. And yeah, there's great resources out there, and I
Yeah.
love that y'all are one of them.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, and I think as you just I wrote down as you were talking, like, we are meant to be in community. We
Yeah.
are not meant to be alone, and we are
Yeah.
not meant to be isolated. And if you're
Yes,
finding yourself thinking you need to be isolated, that's
That
the
is a
enemy.
lie.
it
Yeah.
is. It is. Because that's where we get, like, darkness is so confusing, and that's where chaos happens, and that's where we spiral, and that's where shame has a louder voice than the truth. And if you have to just put it on repeat, that's what I had to do a lot, was like, what is the truth? Like, no, that's not true. That's not who I am. That's what happened to me. That's not my identity. Um,
Right.
and I think a lot of times what people do to survivors, that they did to me anyway, was, it's like if I were to talk about it, it was like, oh, we don't want. But
Yeah.
it's like, man, that's not who I am. That's
Right.
not a label that I want on me, but that's part of my story. So
Mhm.
what does it look like to be honest and transparent without, like, just vomiting all over people, but
Sure.
being honest? And there is a way to do that in
Yeah.
a healthy and healing way for you, and in a way that's not going to trigger you and re-traumatize you all the time.
Right.
You find the balance with time as you heal, but you do that with people that know what they're talking about.
Right. Right. Yeah. Start there before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
and they're just
Oh,
gonna.
don't
Well, and
go to TikTok.
yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh my Lord. You know how many people are
That's a,
like, you can't. No, TikTok is, stop.
oh, I know. It's so bad.
It's
Well,
ridiculous.
I think that with that, if anybody's listening to this and, I know Roxy and myself, as far as we have mental health resources that we go to. And so if you're somebody who's like, I don't even know where to start, you can always send an email and we would be happy to share that list with you. And then also too, I mean, I know you are, Taylor, present on social media.
Yeah.
And I think that just knowing that there's people out there with a quick, like, need a quick, like, suggestion on resources, we're around and there. And if you're somewhere in your journey where, Roxy and I work in the space of that connection with the body and just questions, like, if anybody, just a question,
Yeah.
we're always are here, especially as women. And the point of all of this is to know, as you just said, and walking through that, and we're meant for community. and to be able to get back and find the joy and have fun.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? I love that. Why not? That's what we keep saying. So anyway, well, okay. Any other questions, Roxy? Anything left to stone unturned? Taylor, anything else you'd love to share with us? This has been so amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh, gosh. I mean, we've laughed, we've cried. Oh, gosh. This has been so good and so rich. And I know that it's going to just be amazing for so many women to listen to it.
Yeah, I really hope so. It's really special to me. This is the first time I've really like talked about my story outside of my control on social. So
Yeah.
it's really special, and what you're doing is really important. And I do want to say thank you also for being a sponsor. That's
Yeah,
so cool of you.
Yes.
It's so nice.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
But, I'll represent well. So
yes, you
I'm
will.
so grateful for what you do for women.
Thank you.
I think if anyone is considering coming to you, one of my favorite things that you said one day, almost in passing, because it's just who you are. It's just so ingrained in you that you don't even think about how incredible it is. You were just talking about women who come in and they're embarrassed about what they're thinking or feeling or happened, or they don't understand what's going on. And you were just like, man, I just wish people would just come in and be like, help. Because they're not supposed to have the answers before they come to you. You help them find the answers.
Yeah.
And man, if I had you as a resource when I was really first going through this, I think it would have helped me so, so much. And so just to be able to encourage people that people like you guys are out there and willing to help and not be shameful. Like you genuinely, you have seen it all. I can't imagine anything you being like, oh, wow, you're weird.
Nope.
I just don't see that anyway.
Nope. We're like, port, tell us everything.
Yeah, bring it on. So yeah, I love what you're doing and creating a space for people to be safe and not have the answers. Like that's what life is. What the heck?
Yes. Yes.
We just overcomplicate.
We do. And I recently just read something and I told my husband, I was like, that's it. Like that is our purpose. And it was just literally people are the purpose. Like that is it. And it's simple. And that's why we do it. We can't say it enough and obviously Roxy and I always like to say, like we can speak for ourselves and how we treat, but we get, very much attached to like, oh, it's physical therapy. Like I'm just going to go give some exercises or whatnot. And it definitely is way beyond that. And you could not get one exercise coming and seeing us. It could be a matter of literally retraining your nervous system to be okay with touch.
Yes.
And that doesn't even have to have anything to do with the pelvic floor. It could just be touch.
Yeah.
So, I think that is huge. And maybe we need to do a whole episode on that.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Just to kind of talk through like the things that might be interesting or helpful to people that have been through these things. Like, hey, if you've been through trauma and maybe you're experiencing this, here's some things we offer, like specific to trauma. I think that could be huge because, I mean, like 1 in 3 women, like we're, we need this help and you are giving that. And I hope that you know how meaningful and impactful it is. And you're literally changing like not just a life, but like generations, bringing wholeness to one person. You have to think like, and you do, how many people that changes. And that's really important.
I think you might make me cry now because
you're changing people's lives. And that's really awesome.
This is such a rewarding space to work in and it is very hard. And so I think sometimes for Roxy and I to be able to sit and be still and have somebody share that with us, even though it's like, okay, yeah, we know we're making a difference, but to just sometimes hear that is pretty powerful. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would say likewise. I mean, you're using your platform too, to speak truth into other women's lives. And that's huge. You're putting yourself in a more vulnerable place than Megan and I have to put ourselves in, of when we're working on people, we're working out of what we know and kind of a safer place for us, I guess. But I would encourage you too, that you're in a really putting yourself in a vulnerable place, opening yourself up for what other people think and let them, right? But also that you are, that you're doing the same thing and you're using your voice and your experience to for good, and I just want to applaud you for that too.
Thanks, because that's a scary feeling. Like I hate being misunderstood or underestimated or just not believed. And thankfully, like over the years, I feel like I've gotten past the performative stage or the approval stage or the whatever. It's kind of more like, hey, I have something to say and it's going to resonate with the people that it needs to. And the people that have anything else to say, it's like, well, I guess you can be wrong.
Yep.
But
Right.
like really, like there's always going to be people saying something. And I think that's why people don't share their stories. That's why I didn't. And so, yeah, I really do hope that it's a message that's well received and is just helpful. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so
Good
much. This was
luck.
incredible.
Good luck.
Thank you,
fun.
guys.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Pelvis Project podcast. Help us continue the conversation by liking and sharing this episode with friends. And if you really want to do us a solid, leave us a review. If you'd like to follow us on social, check out the show notes for links. And remember, this week, take a deep breath and relax your pelvic floor.